Republicans like Don Jr. have been pretty furious with House Speaker Mike Johnson, the gentleman that you see right next to me, the gentleman who secured nearly $100 billion in military funding for wars abroad. But despite the criticism he's facing from the America First MAGA crowd, it turns out that the Don himself, Donald Trump, is still backing Johnson, putting him directly at odds with his own son, and again, the America First base. Now, yesterday, Trump was asked point blank about why the base is so upset with Mike Johnson following the House's passage of that military funding bill, or I should say military funding bills, since there were 4 separate ones. Nonetheless, here's how he responded.
How do you square this divide now between MAGA and Mike Johnson with your support of him and our base?
Well, look, we have a majority of 1, okay? So it's not like he can go and do whatever he wants to do. I think he's a very good person. You know, he stood very strongly with me on the NATO when I said that NATO has to pay up, and they have to pay up soon and fast, and he has stood strongly on that. He agrees with that. He also got some of the money in the form of a loan, quite a bit of the money in the form of a loan, and he, felt on that. But it's a tough situation when you have 1. I think he's a very good man. I think he's trying very hard. And again, we've got to have a big election. We've got to elect some people in Congress, much more than we have right now. And we have to elect some good senators, get rid of some of the ones we have now, like Romney and others. And we have to have a big day, and we have to win the presidency.
Gotta take that opportunity to throw Romney under the bus, of course. But for those who are unfamiliar with the whole NATO debacle, what Trump was referencing there was the pressure that he applied to other NATO countries to invest more money on their militaries, on their defense. And to Trump's credit, he did succeed in doing that. Germany in particular really did bolster the military funding that they were putting into their own military. So that's what he's referring to, Cenk.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
Yeah, so look, I can't wait to get the catfight between Donald Trump Sr. and Donald Trump Jr. But quick note here, he always cracks me up, as heinous as he is. He agreed with me very strongly.
Very strongly.
No one ever agrees with him mildly. They're always very strong in their agreement of him. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I should also note a few other things. Now, Trump has been pretty vocal against Ukraine. This has been the case even when he was president. And so I thought that if anything, he would be critical of the $65 billion that has been allocated for Ukraine thanks to these funding bills. But he was not critical of that. He didn't mention that. And I think it's probably because Johnson had met with Trump, and during that meeting, Trump had communicated that he felt that the military aid to Ukraine should be in the form of a loan. And about 10 billion of that 65 billion will be in the form of a loan to Ukraine. So maybe Trump feels heard, but it is interesting that he's taking a pragmatic approach here by mentioning the very slim majority that Republicans have in the House. Now, let's move on to the other side of this equation, which is the MAGA crowd that is not happy with Mike Johnson, and that includes Donald Trump's own son, Don Jr. Now, he posted a video on X just last week with the caption, "If you ever even begin to start believing anything anyone in Republican leadership tells you, watch this." And this is the video that he posted.
Telling all of you, and we've told the American people, border, border, border. We have to effect real policy change at the border, and that is a necessary condition to anything we do going forward. We have to take care of our border first. That's what the American people demands.
Every state in America is now a border state.
Border, border, border. How can we be engaged in securing the border of foreign countries if we can't secure our own? We know the urgency in Ukraine. We were going to stand for freedom and make sure that Vladimir Putin doesn't march through Europe. It's past time to secure the border.
Listen, this is a catastrophe down here.
The battle is for the border.
President Biden wants a supplemental spending bill. It better begin by defending America's national security.
Okay, these are dangerous people who are coming into the country. Over 300 known terrorists.
How can we be engaged in securing the border of foreign countries if we can't secure our own?
Well, Don Jr. should have a conversation with his father, who literally made it clear that he does not want Congress to pass any immigration reform, any border security bill, because he wants to run on immigration for the general election. So like, it is amazing that that is the compilation that Don Jr. chose to go with. Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I love this kind of social media catfight between the two Donald Trumps. So here's my explanations as to what I think is happening here. Number one, Donald Trump Jr. probably doesn't get much of an audience with his dad. His dad thinks he's a schmuck. And so it's obvious that they're not coordinating here at a bare minimum. I don't think, like if his dad told him, shut up and support Mike Johnson, I guarantee you Jr. will go, I'm so sorry, but daddy, I'm so sorry. And then go running back into Mike Johnson's arms. But Jr. is mainly trying to look cool online, like, oh yeah, I could do a meme, I could do these videos. What's MAGA base? Oh, they hate Mike Johnson. Yeah, I hate Mike Johnson. And then daddy comes along and slaps him around. He's like, okay, daddy. Watch, you'll see. My guess is that Donald Trump Jr. will turn around on Mike Johnson. If he says anything at all, the next thing he says will be positive, right? So it goes to show you they're not talking much in the Trump family. So what does Trump actually want? Well, I mean, Junior puts in that video about the border, but wait a minute, Mike Johnson killed the border bill for Papa, for Donald Trump Sr., right? So Trump got some sort of deal with Mike Johnson, and he's honoring the deal. And you could tell when Trump talks if he really is backing the guy or not. In this case, I had the displeasure of listening to a long part of that interview about Mike Johnson. And you could tell Trump's heart's not into it. He's like, yeah, he agreed with me strongly on NATO, and he's got nice ties. Yeah, he didn't say that part, but it was really kind of a weak defense. It's obvious they made some sort of deal, and that's why Trump's staying on his side. So what's in the deal? We don't know that yet, but easy to speculate here. One is, he killed a border bill for Trump. That's the number one part of it. Plus, he said, oh, of course, the election was stolen, sir. Of course, sir. What other lie would you like me to tell, sir? Was there anything else? I don't know.
Yeah, there could be some more wheeling and dealing happening behind the scenes. And if that's the case, I'm sure it'll come to light at some point. But I don't know if that deal will withstand the mockery that Mitch McConnell has made of the Trump crowd today. Because in a press conference, he seemed to be laughing at the America First crowd and celebrating the passage of that military funding that was passed in the House. So let's take a look.
The demonization of Ukraine began by Tucker Carlson, who in my opinion ended up where he should have been all along, which is interviewing Vladimir Putin. And so he had an enormous audience, which convinced a lot of rank and file Republicans that maybe this was a mistake. I think the former president had sort of mixed views on it. We all felt that the border was a complete disaster, myself included. And Chad, you remember covering the phases we went through. First, there was an effort to make law, which requires you to deal with Democrats. And then a number of our members thought it wasn't good enough. And then our nominee for president didn't seem to want us to do anything at all. That took months to work our way through it. So we ended up doing the supplemental that was originally proposed.
So he, took a bit of a victory lap in McConnell fashion, which isn't too exciting. I mean, he's pretty monotone in explaining how it all went down, but he's celebrating the fact that they managed to get that military aid to Ukraine and to Israel and to Taiwan as part of the 4 bills that were passed with the leadership of Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. And so I don't know how Trump is gonna feel about that. I don't know if there are gonna be other moments where McConnell is gonna be bragging about securing that funding. But I know that Trump despises McConnell, and he certainly doesn't like seeing him take a victory lap.
So what happens when a turtle and an orangutan get into a cat fight? Well, with the first shots have been fired by a aforementioned turtle.
But is it? Am I the baddie for, in this particular fight, siding with to some extent, not entirely, the America First crowd?
Oh, yeah, look.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I know.
Because I think the America First crowd in this particular case has a point, especially when it comes to some of the funding that's going to be provided to one of the particular countries that we're talking about here.
Yeah, so look, there's two different things, guys, politics and policy, right? So politics of it is Mitch McConnell has been serving the defense contractors his entire career.
Exactly.
So he doesn't give a damn Ukraine, Russia, or national security. No, he's just like, hey, did the checks clear? Good, we're voting in that direction. Hey, all Republicans, remember I'm the one handing out checks to you guys. We're all voting in that direction. That's why he still got over 100 votes for the Ukraine funding. Obviously, Israel funding, everybody's getting rich. So he doesn't have to lobby people on that. So that's Mitch McConnell's motives, not pure at all. Donald Trump obviously got some sort of deal and is now, I guess, okay with giving funding to Ukraine, which, by the way, credit to Donald Trump a little bit. So, everybody says he's in the pocket of Russia, but he didn't prevent the Ukraine funding bill. So fair is shown America, okay? So, but whatever deal Trump has got, he's got that deal. But it's not America First at all. It's not his MAGA base. So neither one is really serving the MAGA base.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So now when you get to the policy part of it, there's two different things there too, which is what does MAGA want, the Republican base, and what do we think is the right policy, right? So MAGA definitely wants America first. And so they might be a little torn on Israel, although these days they're headed very much against Israel and funding Israel any further, right? But on Ukraine, they're super clear, they don't want to fund Ukraine.
Correct, yes.
Right? So Trump is definitely not with the base on this one. And so that's the most clear out of all the policy things. For us, it gets complicated because we've discussed it many times on the show. Look, we want Americans to have universal health care, paid family leave, all these wonderful things. And they keep telling us we don't have money for it, but then whenever there's a war and the defense contractors are gonna get rich, it immediately gets funded, they immediately find the money. At the same time, our hearts go out to the Ukrainians. And on the third hand, how long are we going to go, right?
Yeah, what is the exit strategy?
Yeah, these are legitimate conversations and debates to have. And I would actually rather have it with the MAGA base, which are at least genuine about their opinions.
I agree.
Than Mitch McConnell or Donald Trump, who are doing it for different forms of corruption.
I agree. It doesn't mean that we subscribe to everything the MAGA base believes politically, but in regard to military funding for wars abroad, I do think that they make legitimate points that are worth discussing. What's gonna be interesting moving forward is how that MAGA base responds to the fact that Donald Trump has now provided cover for Mike Johnson, someone who the MAGA base seems to dislike more and more with each passing day. And it's not just the voters, it's also some Republican members of Congress, including, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the most vocal opponents of Mike Johnson as a result of his passage of these military funding bills. She has threatened to call for a motion to vacate Mike Johnson from his speakership role. Representatives Thomas Massie and Paul Gosar are the only other Republicans who are currently and openly in support of that motion. And as for right-wing media figures, you have Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon, and Tucker Carlson, all taking sides against Mike Johnson. So let's take a look at that.
They committed sacrilege on Saturday when they brought the Ukrainian flags. They brought Ukrainian flags on the floor of the House after Johnson and this crowd of Republicans, the 101, and all the 101 will be turfed out. Johnson's got to go. Our entire week, you need to call your district offices, and you need to put the fear of God in these people that you've had a belly full of this.
The one that really bothered me, where there is no excuse, there is no hiding, is the FISA vote. And I'll be honest, the only redemption now is Mike Johnson has to resign. Not from his seat in Congress, just resign as speaker, step aside. This has all the hallmarks of elite capture. He's been captured. It didn't take a lot of time. He's not one of us. He's not who he said he was.
Weak people just become a host for evil. You know, an open, empty building that evil occupies, possesses even. And that's exactly what's happening to Mike Johnson. That's like absolutely crazy what Mike Johnson is doing. But it's not because he's evil. It's because he's weak and therefore susceptible to evil.
Okay, the Tucker Carlson has kind of lost his mind a little bit, but I have to admit, I am shocked that I'm in agreement with Charlie Kirk on FISA. I can't believe he spoke out against FISA. I totally agree with him on that.
Well, there's a couple of shocking things happening. One is that the grassroots left and grassroots right are beginning to agree on a bunch of things, including cutting funding to Israel, including taking care of American citizens and not the donors all the time. We're both totally against corruption. We massively disagree on other issues. Okay, so fine, but at least we're beginning to have some sort of unity against the corruption of the establishment. Yeah, it is shocking that Charlie Kirk and us agree on anything, but there it is for the first time.
FISA allows for the warrantless wiretapping or spying and surveillance of American citizens. There's a huge loophole in there that allows for our intelligence community to spy on American civilians without a warrant. And so the reauthorization of that is something that I'm pretty furious about, and apparently so is Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, so let me agree on one other thing before I get to the second shocking part, which is, look, the Ukrainian flags on the US Congress, yeah, we don't love it, okay? I got nothing but love for Ukraine. On the war itself, I hope Ukraine wins. I hope they drive out Russia. I'm not unclear about it. And it's not because I randomly prefer the Ukrainian ethnicity. It's because Russia invaded them. Okay, so but the flags are a bit much. This is our Congress, not your Congress. But I called out some right wingers online because they were complaining about it, and I said, "Were you also complaining about Fetterman carrying around an Israeli flag like every day in Congress,
or
Brian Mast wearing the IDF uniform in Congress,
right?
A foreign army's uniform. That is unbelievable." So. Okay, I don't know that they're, I don't know if they're hypocritical on that or not. I haven't heard Steve Bannon's opinion on it, but okay, interesting note of a tiny agreement there. But the second shocking thing is, okay, Tucker's off the reservation, right? So in a lot of ways, so he can do whatever he likes, right? And him disagreeing with Trump is not that weird. But Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk defying Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, look, I don't know if they recorded their shows prior to Donald Trump having this exchange where he provided cover for Mike Johnson. And remember, they're not attacking Donald Trump, they're attacking Mike Johnson for passing these bills.
For sure, and I hear you, Anna, but Trump, and you're totally right, and they might turn around like Don Jr., we'll see, right? And Jr. hasn't turned around yet either on this particular issue. But they had to know that Trump was going towards Mike Johnson. He had Mike Johnson at Mar-a-Lago. Maybe they were trying to influence him and failed, but there's a little bit of a rift there. And it's not just this story, guys. I'm seeing it all over social media. Right-wing populists are beginning to wake up out of their slumber. Like it's almost like somebody snapped them out of their hypnosis. And they're like, I wonder if Trump is right about everything. Or maybe he's also full of crap. Finally, yes. So it's not to say that the entire base, we still go to the rallies, they still love him. I don't want you to get too excited, but I'm beginning to see actual independent thought in the right wing, maybe for the first time in my life.
I'm starting to see it across the board, regardless of someone's political label. And it is a sight to see. I'm excited to see it because we shouldn't be, worshiping false idols. So for those of you who are religious and understand what I'm talking about, we shouldn't be worshiping a political figure as if they can do no wrong. It's important to see things with sober eyes and an open heart, because if the favored politician of yours is actually not carrying out your best interests and you're still supporting them, well, you're supporting someone who's working against your best interests. And it's time that we wake up and stop feeling so wedded to a political tribe or to particular politicians.
Yeah, so I mean, look, we prove it all the time. We did a petition against Bernie Sanders on minimum wage because Bernie Sanders isn't my uncle. He's a nice guy, he's probably the most honest guy in politics, but I often disagree with him. And he's not the boss of me, so our boss is clear. It's our paying members, keep it real.
You guys finance the show, so we work for you guys. But we did that on purpose because we want to serve the average American. We don't want to serve corporate interests. We don't want to serve these politicians, and everybody else kisses their ass, right? But now even some portion of MAGA is beginning to say, maybe we shouldn't be in the ass kissing business. Maybe the whole point of this whole freedom thing was to actually be free, including of obvious con men like Donald Trump. So, and look, and now some of them come back around and going, oh, did you know Young Turks are against corruption and they're kind of anti-establishment? Yeah, brother, we've been here for decades. You're a little late to the party, but I'm super happy to have you. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.